Welcome to Arts and Entertainment Ministries and our series on the 10 Commandments for artists and creative professionals. And today I want to talk about the fourth commandment and the reason God commanded us to rest. Exodus 20 verse 8 calls us to remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. We live in a busy world with opportunities and distractions. There's always something else to do and somewhere to go. In the midst of this, our culture has lost sight of the Sabbath. Sure, most jobs let you take a day or two off each week because the Sabbath is built right into our Western culture. But what do we do with those days? Fix things around the house, play video games, or go to movies? Maybe that's when you're able to finally pursue your art. But we don't rest the way God designed us to rest. We cannot ignore this part of our design. If we look around us, we see our culture struggling with the loss of a Sabbath. In the absence of the church offering hope and rest, they're looking for a substitute. Men and women know they need rest. Some go to yoga and now pervasively to mindfulness. Their desire for rest is good and God-given. But being centered or mindful are not going to go deep enough. God designed you with a need not only to let go of work and stress, but to find meaning in His love for you and your place in His grand story. This is what the Sabbath is really about. Now, unlike the first three commandments, this one isn't just instructing us how we're to honor God, but how we are to be healthy and holy and how we begin to identify with God. Understanding what it means to be His people, made in His image, and to adopt His rhythms of life. Interestingly, it's the only commandment for which we're given two different reasons. One in the book of Exodus and the other in Deuteronomy. And they're different, but complementary. So I want to look at that. First, in Exodus, the passage expands on the idea, explaining how God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh, taking a Sabbath. And this reminds us that we are made in His image. We, like our Heavenly Father, need a day of rest each week. There's something mysterious about our nature that works better when we rest and honor that rhythm. Now, second, in the book of Deuteronomy, we're exhorted to obey the Sabbath because God rescued the Israelites from Egypt. And we're no longer slaves. We don't have to work every day like when they were slaves. And in fact, God is saying something quite profound and powerful. He's saying, you are more than your job. You may be a teacher, an actor, producer, even a lawyer, dentist, whatever. Those are useful terms, but they don't define you. You're a man or a woman made in God's image, with dignity that reaches far beyond your job or your usefulness in society. And God knows you and I will forget it. So we need to remind ourselves of it every week. So take the day off. Remind yourself of your dignity apart from how you make a living. In the New Testament, we see that the Sabbath was meant to be a blessing. In Mark chapter 2, Jesus Himself tells us, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. The point being this, God didn't create the Sabbath as another rule to burden you and me. No, the Sabbath is a gift. It's to help you, to refresh you, to give your body a break as well as to refresh your mind and your spirit. So how do we observe the Sabbath? Well, first, to honor the rhythm prescribed, take a Sabbath. Take one day out of the week and rest. And not just to rest, but also to worship and recognize how you are designed in God's image. He wants to refresh more than just your muscles from working or your mind from thinking. Honoring that rhythm will rejuvenate you on a much deeper level. And second, don't let your work become your identity. If all you do is work, you can lose your broader and more complex identity. You're a daughter or a son or a parent or a friend or a neighbor and a part of your community. If you see yourself only as an actor, a musician in a band, or an artist, you lose sight of your spiritual needs, your relational needs, and the important roles you play in other people's lives. Now, third, be bold and trust God to recharge you for the other 6 days and bless you for honoring Him. Sometimes you have a lot of work to get done, and it feels like risky to take that day off. Now, how does this apply to your art and artistic process? First, portray in your art the basic need for rest and replenishment. Second, show the cost of being a workaholic and ignoring this God-given rhythm. We can also recognize the world's recent trend towards mindfulness as a yearning for a Sabbath each week, but also yearning for peace and rest within. Even if skeptics observe the Sabbath, it will bless them. But the deepest blessing and refreshment comes through the forgiveness and love of Christ as we put our trust in Him. All too often, movies, plays, and TV shows entirely skip the reality of the Sabbath. And according to Barna, over 50% of Americans go to church on a fairly regular basis on the Sabbath, as do Christians all around the world. Most Americans going to church experience something very important to them that's almost completely avoided when it's portrayed in TV and film and fine art. And if you're a Christian in these industries, you have a tremendous opportunity. Portray the blessing of getting rest, taking a Sabbath. And you don't need to be preachy to portray the simple joy of fellowship and rest and prayer and community we can experience on the Sabbath. So what is the sum of all this? Take a day off. It's good for you. It fits how you are made, and it is a gift for you to enjoy. Second, consider the blessing and how you can include something in your discussions and your artwork that more than half of all Americans and many Christians around the world enjoy. After all, if you want your art to speak to those who are going to watch it, then the artwork ought to resemble the realities they experience and cherish. Now, for those who don't know me, I want to be clear about what I don't mean. I don't mean go make art that is preachy, telling people they better take a Sabbath. I also don't mean something cheesy like portraying people that take a Sabbath and they're all put together and everything's saccharine, sweet, and easy for them. That's not honest. Christ did whatever He did out in the open, and He didn't sugarcoat anything. He didn't talk down to people, and He didn't mislead anyone. So explore the idea of the Sabbath in your art, but do it in an honest, authentic manner. So go celebrate the Sabbath and explore it with your art. Start a conversation about something beautiful. And remember, God gave you the Sabbath because He loves you deeply. Now, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and click the subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments, please just place those down below. And we look forward to continuing the discussion.